All right, we got a knife, a pretty darn cool knife, but it's got no handle or scales, whatever you want to call it. And we're gonna fix that. We're gonna be making a really cool handle for this thing out of epoxy. Don't know if it's gonna hold, but it's gonna be clear and see-through. So let's do it. Welcome to the Komar project.
So I got this knife last year as a Christmas present, and it's been sitting in my shop for about a year now, and it's time to make a handle for it. I've been bouncing around some ideas for this handle for some time now, and I figured if I can make a clear see-through handle, it might look pretty cool. So clear casting epoxy it is. The first thing I have to do is make a form for the casting, and I'm using 3/4 inch Baltic birch plywood, and I cover it with Tyvek tape. It's a type of sheathing tape that will prevent the epoxy from sticking to the form. I'm using 100% silicone caulk to line underneath where the knife is going to go, and then I can set the knife in the form and sandwich it between two pieces of plywood. Then I come back and caulk all the way around the knife. I've had plenty of leaks in the past, and I'm not taking any chances this time, so definitely lots of caulk. For the pour, I'm using clear casting epoxy from Total, which is the sponsor of this project. This epoxy has a long setup time, which translates to a super clear pour. This is a 3-to-1 ratio epoxy, which means it's 3 parts A to 1 part B by volume, which can be easily measured with the mixing cups that Total provides with every purchase. And if you enter the discount code at Komar, Total is going to give you 15% off your first purchase on all their products. So thank you so much, Total, for sponsoring this build and supporting the channel. Now let's get back to this handle. No matter what kind of epoxy you use or how gently you're actually mixing it, eventually you're going to get little tiny bubbles. And what I do to eliminate those before I pour is actually use a heat gun on a low setting to bring those bubbles up. It actually starts that clearing up process for me before I pour it into the mold. You can actually place your mold inside of a pressure pot. This will eliminate pretty much 99% of all the bubbles. But since I don't have a pressure pot, I heat up my epoxy, and that way it gives me a clear result in the end. After about 8 hours, the epoxy reaches gel state, which means that it's not fully cured yet and it's soft to the touch, but it's not a liquid. And at that point, you can go ahead and pour your second pour directly over it. Now, if you miss that gel state and your epoxy hardens up totally, not all is lost. All you have to do is just scuff it up with some 220 sandpaper and you're good to go.
All right, so this thing came out absolutely amazing, and I'm super happy with how clear it is. And it does have these 2 little bubbles here that I guess came out during the 2 pours, and I think they look kind of cool. So we're gonna keep them.
We're gonna have ourselves a glass handle. That's pretty cool. After cutting out the rough shape on the bandsaw, I started the shaping process on my belt sanders. This is the first time I'm ever making a knife handle, and I didn't know exactly how thick the scales should be. So I did some research online and found that 3/8 is about right. So I sanded until I got that 3/8 on each side of the knife, and then put in some contouring that felt just right in my hand. After a while, I was amazed at how well it indexed and how comfortable it felt. Next came the sanding, and there was a lot of sanding, all the way up to 5,000 grit, and I made sure not to skip any of those grits. So it took some time.
Nothing better than sanding. Nothing better than sanding. I believe that. Hey, and this paper is actually really good. It's got a sticky back to it, so you can just stick it to your fingers and sand. I'll put a link in the description.
The final step in this build is to use Total Buff and Total Shine to buff out any of the scratches left over from the sanding process. This enables this handle to have that smooth and crystal clear appearance. now that you've seen the handle, it's time to test it. So let me introduce you guys to a couple of judges that are gonna weigh in on, well, basically everything. Two-time Forged and Fire champion, Ben Abbott. Historical weapons recreation expert, David Baker. And finally, martial artist and edge weapons expert, Doug Marcaida. So let's see what they think.
It got good weight, but the handle is big. Well, maybe it's just my hand. It indexes very good on my hand, but it's very dumb design. Overall, it's okay.
There is something I'm confused about. This side of the handle is very clear, very few bubbles, but this side has a lot of bubbles. Nice reflection. I don't see any warts. Overall, Mr. Komar, this is a very nice blade. Doug?
For sharpness and edge retention, here is the pineapple slice.
Oh no, there it goes.
Overall, your knife will heal.
Alright guys, so this knife is a total success. I was actually worried that this handle wouldn't hold up during the judges' testing.
There it goes.
But it did. It stayed in one piece, and that's surprising because it doesn't have any mechanical connection. It's all epoxy, which is basically plastic. So if you guys like this video, let me know in the comments section below. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification so I can keep putting videos out like this. Thank you so much for joining me on this experience. I will see you guys next time. Oh no, that's my bench. Alright, turn your body, tick. Turn your body, tick. Sing it, Mr. Fahrenheit!
The problem is, you just won 10K! Babush, Mr. Komar! Drop the knife.